what we went through there, and it was the scenic route, what we went through there is a lot of information that you had after July of 2023, which showed you that the person who put this plan together, this alternate elector plan that was used across 7 states in the United States, including Michigan, was drafting memos for others to review that talked about the contingent nature of the document. True?
Yes.
How did that information impact you? Okay, let me take a step back. The charges here seem very focused on the 4 corners of People's Exhibit 14. Do you agree with that?
Yes.
Okay. What Chesbro is essentially saying in the interview you had with him in these memos is that you have to read that document in context with what's going on in the world around you. Fair?
What he's saying?
Yeah.
Does this still affect on the listener?
Yeah.
He's asking how it affected his.
Well, he asked what was Chesbro saying, basically asking him to explain what Chesbro was saying, which is
Are you asking
different
what
than
he,
affecting.
I'm sorry, are you trying to get what he's interpreting, Chesbro?
I'm trying to get.
Intent to be, or what he physically said?
So look, I mean, I think I can get there the way I'm going, but I'll just state it bluntly. Agent Schock filed an affidavit in this case in July of 2023. He did not have the benefit of an interview with Mr. Chesbro. He did not have the benefit of the 3 memos that Mr. Chesbro drafted about this document that is very offensive to the state of Michigan. And what I want to know is, after he reviewed this stuff, did it matter to him?
That was the question.
That's
Well, I'm
a good
asking him
question.
now.
So we'll withdraw his previous question and we'll take that.
Let's do that. Did you hear it? I don't know if I can do it as good as that.
The second question, yes.
All right, what's your answer?
I said yes.
It mattered.
Yes.
How did it matter?
It's more investigative leads.
And would you say that the guy who drafted this document believed that document to be contingent on a future event is very significant to your investigation?
Yes.
Okay. Just a quick about the certificate of votes being married up with the certificate of ascertainment issue. Do you remember when the National Archives witness, I think her name was Miriam Vincent, basically testified to that? She said the certificate of votes has no legal significance until it's married up with the certificate of ascertainment. Do you remember that?
I vaguely remember that, yes.
Okay. And do you believe that to be true?
Yes, I mean, she would know. She's the authority on it.
All right, I'm going to take a stab at it, Your Honor. I think the court has listened to me read from certain paragraphs of this. I think I've made the points I want, but if the court wants proposed defense exhibits F, G, and H, I think the proper foundation has been laid. I think they are important to the court's determination, and so I'd offer them as evidence in this case.
Are you continuing your objection?
I am, Your Honor. Effect on the listener does not permit the documents themselves to be admitted substantively. The documents themselves are still hearsay.
We have the statements, you read them on the record, so I don't know that we need the entire documents admitted as an exhibit, so the objection is sustained.
All right, thank you, Your Honor. Okay, so Mr. Chesbro told you that he drafted the language in a way of the certificate of votes, People's Exhibit 14 and the other companions across the other states, in a way to be compliant with the law. Is that what he told you?
I don't remember specifically what he told me, but I do remember that he tried to create similar documents that were already on filed with various states.
Okay. And do you remember him telling you that he forwarded drafts of those documents to Mike Roman, who's worked somehow for the Trump campaign?
Yes.
And he sent those to Mike Roman prior to December 14, 2020, right?
Yes.
All right, we'll get back to Mr. Roman in a minute. Now, you talked about this, so I want to go through it. You said that Mr. Chesbro had a list of the Michigan Republican electors, and didn't he tell you that he guessed as to which ones to contact based upon their status?
Yes.
And he picked Ms. Burden because she was the national committee woman. You talked about that, right?
Yes.
And he also sent that same email to Ms. Sheridan for similar reasons, correct?
Yes.
And you're aware that Kathy Burden never responded to Mr. Chesbro's email, right?
Yes.
Ms. Sheridan did, right?
Yes.
And in fact, it's not only responding to that email, but Mr. Chesbro told you he never talked to Ms. Burden, correct?
Yes.
Or communicated with her in any way.
Yes. Well, other than the initial email.
Fair.
Right.
And so, let's just put context on it. That was a December 10th, 2020 email, correct? You want to see it?
That sounds about right, yes. It was somewhere around that time.
And the email, and maybe I can show it to you, but Ms. Sheridan says she could be more effective than Ms. Burden, correct?
Yes.
Okay. Did Mr. Chesbro explain to you why he didn't think there had to be conditional language directly in the certificate of votes? Do you remember him explaining that to you during your interview?
I remember it was a point of discussion, yes. I don't remember the specifics of it, and it had to do with, I think it was Pennsylvania, but I remember that being a point of discussion.
Okay. Basically, he told you that conditional language is not necessary under federal law, and he used this Hawaii 1960 certificate of votes as an example, right? The one we just went through, Defense Exhibit E?
I don't remember him specifically saying that it wasn't required as a condition of law. I don't remember that part.
All right. You mentioned Pennsylvania, right?
Yes, I remember talking about conditional language. Again, I can refer to my report, but that's what I remember.
Let's see, I might show it to you real quick. So you're aware that the Pennsylvania alternate Republican electors raised an issue about conditional language, right?
Yes.
And they raised that issue to Mr. Chesbro?
They raised the issue. I don't know specifically if Chesbro was looped in on that communication.
You don't remember emails about that where he was very much involved?
Yes, no, he was involved in drafting back and forth, communications. Whether or not it was with Pennsylvania, somebody specifically in Pennsylvania, that I don't recall. I believe it was somebody else within the group of people that he was communicating with at the time.
Do you remember whether it's from Mr. Chesbro or just your investigation generally that these Pennsylvania alternate Republican electors raised this request for conditional language to go directly into that document because they thought their attorney general might prosecute them for political reasons?
I do remember that, yes.
But you're saying you don't remember that it was Mr. Chesbro that actually made that change to the Pennsylvania document?
No, that's not what I'm saying. I believe he made the changes, but who he was in communication with over in Pennsylvania, I don't recall that.
Oh, that's fair. Okay. But you're aware he made the change to Pennsylvania?
Yeah.
All right. I know what I probably should say. Your Honor, should I, okay, the GFGH are not in, so I I should go to I, even though those were in a minute, right?
Yes.
I'm handing the witness what's proposed defense exhibit I, which is the certificate of votes for the state of Pennsylvania, excuse me, the alternate Republican elector certificate of votes for the state of Pennsylvania. Do you see, is that what I handed you?
Yes.
Do you see the addition of conditional language in the first paragraph, we the undersigned?
Yes.
Okay. Are you aware that Mr. Chesbro made that change?
Yes.
You've seen that in his emails, correct?
Yes.
Are you also aware that Mr. Chesbro suggested that all the states, all 7 states, including Michigan, do the same, just to err on the side of caution? Were you aware of that?
I remember somebody did. If it was Mr. Chesbro, I remember hearing that, yes.
And the purpose and the idea was, if we're doing it for Pennsylvania, why not do it for the other 6 states, right?
Yes.
Pretty reasonable kind of follow-up, right?
Yes.
Are you aware that on his own, Mr. Chesbro unilaterally made that change to the New Mexico Republican alternate elector certificate of votes?
I remember talking with him specifically about the conditional language in Pennsylvania, so I reviewed that document to verify what he was talking about.
And you know that he told you that while he put that language into Pennsylvania and New Mexico, he didn't believe it to be necessary, correct?
Yes.
Because in his mind, the document was conditional based on the surrounding circumstances, correct?
Yes.
I am handing the witness what I've marked as proposed defense exhibit J. I think I can do these both at the same time. Is defense exhibit I the certificate of votes by the alternate Republican electors for the state of New Mexico during the 2020 election?
That's J.
J.
But
Oh, I'm sorry, what did I say?
I.
I'm sorry, J.
Yes.
All right, and it too has conditional language in the first paragraph, we the undersigned?
Yes.
Now, Mr. Chesbro wanted to make that change, add the conditional language to the Michigan certificate of votes, didn't he?
I don't recall that.
He didn't tell you that?
I didn't say he didn't tell me that, I just said I don't recall that.
Do you recall seeing that in the emails or text messages or anything like that?
Well,
Sorry, go ahead.
We talked about just a moment ago that he suggested that he changed in all the states.
Fair.
Okay, I don't recall a specific conversation about Michigan.
Fair enough, then that's a fair, so, he told you that he wanted to change all 7 states, including Michigan, in terms of adding
Yes.
conditions. Yes. Okay. Thirty. Yeah, 30. Do you know why the conditional language never made its way into the Michigan certificate of votes, People's Exhibit 14?
I believe somebody objected to it, but I don't recall who that would have been.
Mike Roman?
That sounds familiar, that name. I know that he was having discussions with Roman on that topic.
Certainly wasn't Kathy Burley. She wasn't consulted in any way about what was going to go in that document, was she?
No.
Isn't it true that Mike Roman was the one who refused to have that conditional language added to the Michigan Republican alternate certificate of votes?
It may have been.
Who's Mike Roman?
He was a Trump campaign aide. his, I wanna say it was election day operations.
Remember Mr. Chesbro describing him as the key figure to make sure all the electors showed up on December 14th, 2020?
I don't know if it was Mr. Chesbro, but I remember, him saying that, or somebody saying that.
And again, do you remember what Mike Roman said about just going ahead and adding this conditional language to the Republican alternate certificate of votes here in Michigan, just to make it absolutely clear that this was in fact a conditional document?
Do I remember what Roman said?
That's right.
I do not.
You know? If you read it, it's kind of hard to forget. You know what? Well, I'll read it and then I'll show it to you.
Okay.
Are you gonna refresh his recollection?
Sure. I am handing the witness, J.K., what has been marked as defense exhibit, proposed defense exhibit K. And I'd ask you to identify what that document is.
This is a screenshot of Mike Roman's, I don't know what the face would be, a cell phone, cover that this has on it call video information. It's basically the information portion, of his cell phone, when you're clicking on info as a contact.
Okay, is that Mike Roman's picture?
Yes,
You said you never interviewed Mike Roman, right?
that's right.
Do you recognize proposed defense exhibit K as a text exchange between Mike Roman and Ken Chesbro?
Yes,
Is it true that in the context of what we're talking about, Mr. Chesbro says, Mike, I think the language at the start of the certificate should be changed in all the states. Let's look at the language carefully. Did I read that correctly?
yes, you did.
Is that talking about, again, the date of that text is December 12th, 2020 at 2:17 p.m. Is that correct?
Yes,
Is what I just read consistent with the time frame where Mr. Chesbro changed the language of the Pennsylvania certificate of votes and the New Mexico certificate of votes, and he's saying, let's do it for the rest of the states? Is that what this is talking about?
Chesbro is, yes.
Yes. And what does Mr. Roman say back?
I don't,
So he disagrees, correct?
yes.
And then Mr. Chesbro says, I can help with drafting in a couple hours, right?
Yes,
And what does Mr. Roman say back?
he says, fuck these guys.
Fuck who?
I would be speculating on.
Talking about Ms. Burton?
I would be speculating on who he's referring to.
Sounds like the 16 Republican alternate electors in the state of Michigan.
So
So you
Jeff
didn't
said,
know, you have to speculate the answer.
Do you believe, I can't, well, I'll ask the question. Do you believe that Mr. Roman is referring to the alternate electors in the state of Michigan?
Your Honor, I would object, lack of foundation, the witness has already testified that he would be speculating.
I want to know if he, with his speculation, does he believe in context of his investigation, in context of what's in this text string, which is very clear to me, what this witness thinks?
He's reviewed thousands of documents. He's interviewed probably well over 100 witnesses. He's been working on this case for years, 60 to 70% of the time. I think that it is extremely fair to ask for his personal opinion and based on his personal knowledge of the context of that statement, because it's extremely relevant to the investigation and what steps were taken, both before he views that document and afterward. After he reviews these documents, what steps he takes. That's why it's extremely relevant. This entire line of questioning goes to this investigation and what is being done during this investigation by Agent Shaw.
Yeah, and I don't believe that what is being asked is the context of the statement. I don't think that we need to interpret "fuck these guys." What they're asking is for the witness to speculate who these guys are in the context of what Mike Roman purportedly texted. And the witness has already stated that he's not in a position to do that.
Well, that, he didn't respond in that way to that specific question. When he asked is these guys, that's when he said, well, I would have to speculate. I think asking if does he believe that these guys refers to the 16 electors is more specific and based on his investigation and him knowing the context, I guess, more fully behind that communication chain. He could respond as to whether or not he has a belief that it's these electors or whether or not he still maintains the same answer, which is, I don't know, and it's special. So the objection is overruled as to the rephrasing of the question.
Thank you.
Did you
You
answer?
can answer that.
Do you believe that he's referring to them?
Guys, I interpret that as a male term, so guys would be, I'm
Give me a
referring to
break.
men. Again, I'm speculating beyond that. So when he says, fuck these guys, I'm thinking as a group of men that he's referring to.
Okay. Or you think do you believe that he's referring to the male alternate Republican electors in the state of Michigan? He says that, for instance.
It could be the male alternate electors, it could be the GOP males.
Okay. Bottom line, after you saw this text, you know that the reason why conditional language is not in this certificate of votes is because of Mike Roman, right?
Yes, sir.
And you didn't go and interview Mike Roman, did you?
No.
I mean, isn't he the bad guy here?
Yes. I didn't say that I didn't try. I didn't interview.
But he's the bad guy. I mean, if there's a bad guy here, it's Mike Roman, isn't it?
The investigation is ongoing, Mr. Denny.
Okay. Well, maybe you should charge Mike Roman and not a retired farmer.
Move to strike.
Striking. Are you gonna make a motion to admit IJ? I'm asking because it's 4:07. I'm gonna pause you in a minute.
I'm almost done here.
Oh, okay.
But I will go ahead and move those exhibits into evidence.
Any objections to IJ?
Oh my God. Your Honor, the people have no objections to I and J. However, K is hearsay, and I do not recall hearing in any line of questioning a foundation laid for effect on the listener. And so the people would object to the admission of K.
Okay.
It's hearsay.
Okay, I and J are admitted. Did you want to respond to the objection as to K?
Yes, Your Honor. Your Honor, this is, so this witness just said the investigation is ongoing. He essentially insinuated that Mr. Roman might be charged. That's how I took it. Certainly.
I don't know
and
that he's insinuating that, but
Well-
I don't think he's ruled it out because he said the investigation is ongoing. May not be Mr. Roman, it could be a number of people.
Could be. And so, this document, if, if he's, I assume, well, let me ask, is Mr. Roman an unindicted co-conspirator in this case?
Yes.
So it's not hearsay as a co-conspirator statement, at a minimum. I think this has to come in, certainly for context, Your Honor. This is the guy who prevented this document from having language that would have avoided these charges altogether. The document in and of itself, when read in context, is contingent, but if that language had been there, none of us would be here right now.
Okay,
So-
so the objection was to hearsay, is offered for the effect on the listener.
Yes, sir.
Okay, the objection is overruled, K comes in.
Thank you. Okay, Mr. Schock, Chesbro told you that it was unfortunate about some of the things that were done by the Trump campaign that were not in accord with what he thought they should be doing. Do you remember him telling you that?
Yes.
So for Chesbro, the Trump campaign was doing things inconsistent with what he thought the process should be, right?
Yes.
Chesbro also told you that he would not have sent what he sent to the electors had he known the Trump campaign had a broader agenda than what they told him. You remember him telling you that?
I do not.
You don't remember him saying that?
I don't. I could refer to the notes and I'm sure you're reading from that.
Well, if they were keeping things from a guy like Chesbro, imagine how little his burden.
Move to strike.
And myself, you got a question?
It's fine. It's
Oh, okay,
strategic.
straight.
Do you remember Ken Chesbro telling you directly that he absolutely, quote, feels misled by the Trump campaign?
Yes.
He's starting to feel the same way.
Move to strike.
No further questions.
It is 4:11, you're once again in the additional testimony today. And so we are back tomorrow, 8:30, we'll be back in my original courtroom. You guys, that includes ladies. Make sure you get in there early. I'll try to see if they can adjust the temperature, I'm not sure what they can do in there to help it be a little bit more comfortable. I made the guys climb on because my mom says that when I say that to her, I say guys, I'm not guys.